Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Although we've seen a market pullback a little over the last couple of days, nothing has really changed in my midterm time frame analysis. By that, I mean the 4-hour and the weekly charts I've been sharing recently, as we have managed to pull back right to my 4-hour support outlined in my last few streams. Not only do we have a higher low support on the 4-hour trend, but we also have the MDX Trendmaster 4-hour lining up there for a little bullish confluence there for us. Of course, anything can change at any given time in this crazy market. But so far, for me, things still look great in the crypto market for me. And that goes for Bitcoin as well as many altcoins, actually. So with that, let's dive into a few charts for a quick look before heading into the weekend, shall we? So guys, just looking at the 4-hour chart here, I mean, like I said, we do have that little range that I was talking about in my last few streams, mentioned it in the Telegram as well, that if we saw a bit of a pullback, at least we did have the 4-hour higher low here that has formed. I'll actually take off the Trendmaster just to make it a little bit more clear here that basically you see my white line here was our high. That means we have a higher high and therefore a confirmed higher low. And that's exactly where we ended up coming down to and finding a little bit of support there. Not only that, as I mentioned, that Trendmaster confluence there with that purple line just below us providing a little support. But also if I zoom out, that ascending triangle that I've been talking about for a while now, we're also retesting that old resistance as new support. So there's a lot of confluence right now for potential support to kick in for the bulls to basically get aggressive once again and try to push the price higher. Basically, if we end up dropping 93K, I will start to have my concerns on the trend. I'll actually even end up locking in profits from my previous position, as well as my current position would likely get stopped out in that case. But that's fine. We'll have to see how this ends up playing out. Really, that's all we can do. So far, basically, the trend still looks good to me, right? I mean, looking at the weekly chart as well, you guys know I've been quite bullish on this chart as well, which is still keeping me a little bit bullish, my friends. And guys, for those of you who are interested in seeing way more examples of how I'm looking at the market and some of my trade setups, strategies, and so on, be sure to scan the QR code on the screen and sign up to BloFin, my personal no KYC exchange of choice, to gain access to my free Telegram channel, as well as the current promo that they are running for my followers. This goes for new and existing members. So if that is something that interests you, be sure to scan the QR code, like I said, and get into the group. But that being said, guys, I want to hop back over to the weekly chart just to take one more look at that. So basically where the price is right now, I mean, tomorrow I expect volatility to basically shut off, basically where we're at now going into tomorrow, because generally speaking, the last few months we have had basically every week we've had sideways Saturday. We basically chop around in a small range every Saturday, and then a few hours before the weekly candle close or at some point on Sunday, that's generally where we see volatility kick back into the market. But just looking at the chart structure for what it is right now, look at that strength on the weekly. I've been talking about this in previous streams here, just the last week or two here, you guys. Basically, since we were trading down here, even with our red weekly candle close on Sunday, I was still talking about the fact that we had the RSI climbing very aggressively while we were trading sideways. And that still is the case. We still have the RSI climbing, so we still have strength in the market, even though we're barely making any moves. So I still do take this as a bit of an early warning sign of basically getting a breakout to the upside. And that's why I've been vocal lately about the fact that I think even if it's not necessarily to new all-time highs and not going into a parabolic run or anything like that, I do think it's possible that we get a very nice rally to the upside at least. So we're going to have to see what happens there. But I would really like to see the weekly candle close somewhere where we are right now, or even a little bit higher, basically above my white line here, because I would just love to see a weekly candle close above this resistance that we've been facing the last couple of months here. If we could end up keeping that above that and getting our weekly close on Sunday evening, I think that would look fantastic. We would maybe start the week with some sort of a pullback, maybe even just to retest that old resistance before carrying on higher. But I do think that would be a great sign for the market. Looking at the lower time frames, actually, let's just go back to the 4 hour here. No, I don't think I have anything else I wanted to talk about on the 4 hour. Zooming into the 5 minute, this is the same fib pull, basically that same 94.4K, the bottom of my range here. So just looking at it on the 5 minute, and notice that we got this beautiful little swing fail. We basically just tested slightly below that level, but reclaimed it very quickly. As soon as I saw that we were dropping below this level, I just started laddering into yet another new, I don't know if you want to call it a swing because it is on the 4 hour chart, or more of a scalp just because the trend is already running to the upside. But either way, got myself into another long position. So I do have those two running. I have a few altcoins running as well. But nice to see that on the 5 minute, we do have this buy signal. I don't want to get too excited about that just because we obviously have lower trending sell signals, and even the buy signals, right? They are technically trending to the downside on the 5 minute. So we do still have that indicator showing us that the trend is to the downside on the lower time frames. But the fact that we have tested a midterm time frame and then getting a lower time frame signal like this, at least I'm willing to give it a little more credit there. So basically, like I said, as long as we're staying above 93K, I feel okay about the midterm. If we start losing that, that's where I would honestly start to be looking for something like, even if we got a bounce, that we might just end up setting a lower high. And in that case, it would actually look something like this, right? If we actually smash through our higher low support there and then get some sort of a bounce, I would expect resistance to kick in on the retest kind of a thing. Or at least be looking to hedge myself into some sort of a short in that situation. But so far, I don't think there's any reason to panic quite yet. So we'll see how that goes. See if the bulls can actually step in and find that support. Because guys, I don't want to turn a blind eye to this. The fact we do still have a CME gap between 88.7 down to about 88.2K. It's still absolutely possible that we end up filling that. Of course, it's very possible that we end up going into a nice bullish rally and then eventually the actual bear market kicks in and then we end up filling that gap. Those are all possibilities as well. So it's not like it has to fill today or tomorrow or anytime soon, or realistically, it doesn't have to fill at all. Typically speaking, those CME gaps do fill, but they don't have to. That's the main takeaway there. Bitcoin dominance. We still have these lower trending sell signals on the daily time frame that I've been talking about. I'm seeing more strength in this chart than I would like, and that sounds awkward because if this chart is showing strength to the upside, that's actually showing weakness in the charts, just more so on the assets, just because that would be showing that people are not willing to take on a bunch of risk with the riskier assets like altcoins. But we have not broke this trend yet. We still have this resistance just a little bit above us. Basically, if the Bitcoin dominance could stay below 60%, I think that would be a good sign for the altcoin market as a whole. Hype, still have a bit of my position open. I still have about 30% of that long position open. That is one that I ended up sharing with you guys in the Telegram channel. The fib looks a little bit different. It was actually pulled from here before, and that was actually a swing fail setup, something like that, because we tested the 115 absolutely perfectly. But, the fact that we did get this nice pump here, even as we bounce around here, I'm willing to pull a new fib basically from our range lows here. So nothing has really changed. Either way, we still got that bounce in the same spot, except rather than that being right at the 115, it's actually closer to, it's right in the middle of the STUBER fib pocket, basically. So either way, it's a nice support level. And I hope that we do end up just kind of holding on to that. I would love to see the altcoins get their moment in the sun and start trending to the upside aggressively. I would love to see that. Still a little bit of weakness, but we'll have to see what happens there as well. Render, this one, guys, I mentioned to you in real time yesterday. Thank you, Adrian, for pointing this one out to me, by the way. Basically, this render setup, I believe it was my last public stream here. I think it was, when was that? Tuesday, I believe, where you got me to check this out. And yeah, there is actually a very nice, clean looking STUBER fib setup there, in my opinion. We could obviously still drop lower into the swing fail territory, absolutely possible. So far, I've only hit my 786 entry on this guy, but that is a coin of interest to me as well, just because we have such a clean setup. Like I said, we have this high, we have a higher high. That means this is our confirmed higher low. So with the fib pulled like this, yeah, obviously we're trading just above the 786 right now, basically. Another coin that's been performing okay today is Blur. This is one that someone pointed out to me yesterday, and basically we are holding the MDX Trendmaster on the 4-hour beautifully on this coin so far. Also, even if we ended up trading a little bit lower, same thing, we still have some bullish structure, some nice clean bullish structure, because there was no chop on the way up. That's a key takeaway from this, the fact that this would have been our high. This is our higher high. There's no chop, no messy chart structure in there. Very clean, with this being our higher low in that case, also lining up with the Trendmaster buy signal. So even if we end up dropping a little bit lower, at least there is potential support below us on that guy. AVAX, I have mixed feelings about this one. Yesterday it was looking really good. The fact that we were holding right on the 786, holding the higher buy signal, everything like that. I don't like that we ended up dropping below this buy signal, right? Even though it is technically still a swing fail. We haven't broke the 115, so it's still possible that this finds support. The fact that the Trendmaster is starting to flip blue makes me think that we may end up seeing a lower sell signal come into play with AVAX, in which case I would take that as a bit of a warning, a bit of a red flag, and I'd want to be a little bit cautious there. I don't currently have any AVAX positions open. That's just something that I'm noticing on that chart there so far. As far as meme coins, you guys know my meme coin of choice has been Troll. Looking weak, just like many meme coins have been. But I do see that we are basically testing an 886 right now, but very low market cap, very high risk, because a meme coin with low market cap is always high risk. But that is kind of my meme coin of choice. So I just figured I would mention the chart there. But yeah, looking at Bitcoin, you guys, still love to see that we are holding this buy trend so far on the 5-minute. Obviously, we could drop this at any time. Let's just really zoom in and look for the very micro trend here on the 5-minute even. And notice where we're finding support right now so far. Technically, I mean, even the fact that this was our high, obviously, right? We did set a slightly higher high with our little pullback. I know it's, again, guys, very micro analyzing, but it is what it is. And you guys know I love micro analyzing to look for these setups. But with that higher high and then another higher high here, that confirms this guy as our higher low on the micro trend, right? Obviously, it's not a very significant support level as far as the midterm or the long term goes, but as far as the micro trend, it is nice to see that we do have that staircasing structure a little bit. So even if I pulled a fib from there, again, obviously it's a very small range, it's very micro analyzing, but just to show you how often we see these STUBER fibs and how we so often get these reactions off that pocket. Even this little micro fib pull here, notice how perfectly we ended up coming and testing the 886 here. Obviously, if you're playing something like that, that means that the targets are very close. The 0.5 fib, the 214 fib, we've got very close to. Not everybody is going to want to play a range that small, obviously, but just to show you how these STUBER fib setups can be used to point out ranges in all sorts of shapes and sizes, you guys. So love to see that, even though it is just a micro trend here. Nice to see that little bit of structure being respected still. So I am hoping to see this buy signal on the MDX Trendmaster continue pushing the price. I do want to see if we have any auto fibs with the ALGO Master. I don't know if we will or not. We technically have a bearish one pulled still. Let me clean things up just a little bit. That's an interesting fib pull. I'll give it that. I don't really want to bet against the bulls just because we just tested a 4-hour support level and this is only a 5-minute resistance zone. But yeah, I mean, it's possible that we see some sort of a correction here just because, once again, we have lower trending buy and sell signals. And actually, the ALGO Master indicator is pulling an auto STUBER fib from that lower sell signal, right? You guys know I love using that as a bit of a strategy. The fact that that lines up, yeah, you know, it's possible. But once again, I really haven't been interested in shorting the market, period, for the last I don't know, week or two, I suppose, just because I mean, I would rather wait for the bearish pullbacks to play out and then start looking for long positions again, just because of how I feel about the midterm on the trend for Bitcoin right now, basically. So I don't really want to take a short on something like that, fighting the 4-hour support, as I mentioned. Guys, if you do appreciate these live streams, you appreciate just me keeping a level head in these crazy markets and just looking at the charts for the basic market structure that it is, rather than the FOMO hopium and the doom and gloom FUD out there. I'm just trying to keep a level head, look at the charts for what they are, and honestly, keeping things very simple. You know, I strongly believe that simply having a very strong understanding of higher highs confirming higher lows, as well as lower lows confirming lower highs on a trend, that market structure alone will go so much further in the game of trading compared to anything else, in my opinion. So using that very basic market structure and then using Fibonacci's for those pullbacks, for the entries and your targets and your stop losses and all that sort of stuff, you know, it helps keep things very structured. And as well, waiting for those Fibonacci pullbacks really helps to avoid taking large losses, right? Because trading isn't just about winning trades. It's also about controlling your losses when they happen. And, you know, there's nothing saying that this position is going to turn into a winner, for example. However, I would always rather be a buyer at these support zones rather than a lot of people in the game of trading who would wait for, hey, right here, look at that. We ended up breaking this resistance here. Time to FOMO long, right? I would much rather wait for a pullback rather than entering on a breakout. There is very specific breakout positions that I take, you know, based on some chart patterns. For example, the 4-hour ascending triangle, right? I do play these on shorter time frames as well sometimes, but more so, especially on a shorter time frame, I really like them to have very clean, accurate touch points, and I like to see at least 3 touch points on a trend line before it breaks. This one, it's not absolutely perfect, but it does look quite clean to me. And especially the fact that we actually had 4-hour candles closing above it, even retested it once already, coming back, retesting it again. So it does look fairly clean on the 4-hour. But again, trading breakouts on shorter time frames, I would typically like to see just a little bit more confluence involved, but it is what it is. Let me know in the chat how you guys are feeling. How are you feeling about the market? How are you feeling in general? Thumbs up if you're just excited to be here. Thumbs up if you're bullish. Thumbs up if you're bearish. Thumbs up if you just like the volatility in the market recently. Because as traders, it shouldn't really matter which direction the market is trading. Please take a look if Sui has any chance of filling the wick of the 10th of October. I will take a look at Sui. I couldn't tell you if it is going to fill that wick or not. That is something I've been talking about with many altcoins on this channel recently, is just that a lot of coins, it's very possible we end up filling that wick, but we don't have to, right? Sorry, I just want to look at Sui one more time here. Before I start analyzing that wick, I just want to look at the current range that we have. And this is the same fib pull that I've had on Sui for quite a while, you guys, and nothing has changed, right? We still have this high. We have a higher high. Therefore, we have this as our confirmed higher low. And we've already had the STUBER fib play out once, right? We got our 786 retest. We tested the 0.5 as the first target several times. And then recently we even tested the 214 fib. So technically that bullish fib has already played out for the range targets. But, you know, support is support until it's broken. So I do like to see that once again, the bulls are trying to find support inside my purple box there. So still a nice trend there. I'll bring up the trend master, speaking of trends. And we are currently trading below that purple line. However, it's not like it's flipped into a sell signal yet or anything like that. We are currently right at micro resistance just from the trend, right? Because our low, lower low, lower high. So possible we end up getting rejected here, but it doesn't look all too bad to me. Again, I just don't really want to fight the bulls right now because of how I feel on the 4-hour Bitcoin chart as well as the weekly chart. Now to discuss the October 10th wick. Is it possible that we end up filling this wick? Yeah, it's absolutely possible. It's just that I don't really see anything in the chart suggesting that we have to at this point. A lot of altcoins out there got significantly closer to filling their wicks than this. But you know, it is what it is at this point. It's not like I'm banking on it hitting there. I'm still holding on to a little bit of my long position that I mentioned. When was that? A week or two ago now with this break. But so far, it's still not looking too bad to me, right? We're still holding the uptrend on the 4-hour, so I have no reason to start targeting this level down here quite yet. But yeah, it's possible, but maybe that's going to be a later thing, like when we get an actual bear market kind of a thing too. Who knows, right? Can I look at silver and the SPX? I will take a look at those in the Telegram after this stream, just because I am going to be wrapping up in a few minutes. And since they're not exactly crypto related, I will take a look at them in the Telegram for you in a few minutes. Solana, on the other hand, I will take a look at. This one actually caught my eye earlier. So even though we did get a bearish swing fail there, we did hit into our fib pocket there and see a little bit of rejection. Technically, even though it's a possible swing fail, we are very quickly seeing some strength there. And even though it's a swing fail, it's still a higher high, right? So obviously it's still possible that we do something like that, retest support of the range and then carry on higher. Absolutely a possibility. But, you know, so far, it's just not looking all too bad to me. It's not looking like there's a ton of weakness. I would have expected, if anything, if this was going to act as a proper swing fail, that it would have sent us to the downside a lot more aggressively. Still possible, but not looking too bad. And also, as far as looking at the micro trend on the 4-hour, right? We haven't lost a micro trend at all because you said the 15-minute. I will zoom in a second, Adrian, for you. But on the 4-hour, basically, we have this high, a higher high, therefore a confirmed higher low. So if I pull a fib from there, notice once again where we ended up finding support right around that 786 there. So even though it is a micro trend here, you know, we are still seeing strength. We still are trending to the upside. We're just staircasing higher, setting higher highs, confirming higher lows. Let's see what the trend master is saying for Solana. And we have the trend master support, right? We have the buy signal. We still have our purple line here providing us with support. And as well, guys, these lower sell signals have been invalidated, right? We see, yeah, even though this buy signal is a lower buy signal, technically, even if we wanted to use this as our last sell signal here, we did break above it, right? So even if we ended up trading back below it, this is a warning sign that the downtrend has actually been broken still for that indicator. So at least the way I use it. But that goes for not only this pivot, but also this structure up here, right? That same swing fail that I was mentioning. So yeah, there's some signs there. There's some signs of strength, in my opinion. I will zoom into the 15-minute as I promised. The 15-minute still looks pretty good to me. I have a little bit of mixed feelings just because on the micro trend, we obviously had this little bit of structure here. And even though it's just a wick, technically we did end up with that little warning shot. I still wouldn't really want to bet against the bulls because we do have higher trending buy signals on the 15-minute. And even if we see a little push to the downside, the bulls do have some potential support below us. So I think that Solana actually looks pretty good. Not only that, but how aggressively we ended up breaking this structure, because we obviously had this low here. We had a lower low here. That means this was the highest point between the two. That would be our lower high on the 15-minute trend. And we have broken that, right? So even if we pull back at this point, I would expect it to be some sort of a bullish pullback, if anything. Any thoughts on Bitcoin Cash? I will check that one in the Telegram for you as well, Dan Rab. Haven't looked at liquidations for a while. That is fair. I don't have the MDX retail long short up and ready, so I'll bring that up in my next stream either tomorrow or Sunday. But and Bitcoin Cash, I will, or sorry, that was a different person. That was Dan Rab. I will look at Bitcoin Cash in the Telegram. But yeah, liquidity. Let's check out that liquidations indicator. See where it all is. So I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of liquidations below us. The one thing to mention about that, though, is before when we were making our big, whatever the inverse, our inverse parabola, when we had that, we had a ton of liquidations above us all the way near all-time highs, and we just kept pushing to the downside. So even though, yes, we definitely have way more liquidations to the downside at this point, there still is liquidity above us. So the market maker could pick and choose which way they want to go with this. Maybe they want to go up and grab a bunch first and then, build up even more below us and then grab it all. It's hard to say how they're going to deal with that. But basically the way I see this, yeah, it's possible we go either direction. And I know, yeah, oh, you're saying it could go up or down. Well, that's the reality of trading, to be honest. But I see liquidity both directions, obviously way more below us, but that doesn't mean we can't push higher, right? I wouldn't be considering that we're going to grab this until we actually flush through our support on the trend, basically, at this point. What do I feel about shorting XMR? You know what? That is another one that I am going to take a look at in the Telegram. So I am going to be a busy man here as I wrap up. I am going to, just for you VIPs in my Telegram group, a little bit of special treatment that you guys are going to get some extra charts in a few minutes. So if that is something that interests you, make sure you get in there, guys, because I think that's about all that I wanted to go over today. I did want to wrap this one up pretty quick. So one last time, if you appreciate these live streams, please do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as I mentioned, for those of you interested in learning and seeing more examples of some of my favorite trade strategies, how I use Fibonacci's and market structure, and just give more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description down below. As mentioned, my partners at BloFin are currently giving my followers, new and existing, this special promo that is running until the 25th of January. And guys, inside that Telegram channel, as I mentioned, I will be posting a few charts for you guys there in a few minutes. There will be, what is there? Bitcoin Cash, XMR, Silver, SPX. I am going to be taking a look at those in a minute. So see you guys there. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Peace out.